Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Rise and Grind in the Mornings with 72 the Architect, aka Jason B. Live producing here on Wisdom, Twitch, Twitter, uh, Facebook, YouTube, pretty much a lot of different places. And so good to be back. I kind of took a little bit of a hiatus. I needed a creative, I wouldn't say a break, but I needed to do utility. And this week was definitely one of those weeks where I was really working on some personal and professional things as well as, content things. And I've got, some scripts written down for the next few weeks. So I'm really glad just to be back live on this Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to all you dads out there. Shout out to to every man that's either been a biological or even a metaphorical dad, mentor, so to speak. You guys really, really deserve it. Also, a shout out to all those ladies who've had to play both roles of mother and father, including, definitely shout out to my own mother, but not to disrespect my own father. Thank you, Dad. You guys have both given me an incredible gift, and that is the gift of life. So let me start out with that. So fatherhood, we're going to get into it in just a moment, but I want to start out with a little bit of a quote from the Daily Stoic, and as I do, from Ryan Holiday's book The Daily Stoic, and it's from page 185. And what he says is, let me see if I can go back to my screen. Okay, so he quotes Marcus Aurelius, and he says, let me put on my glasses. Don't let your reflection on the whole sweep of life crush you. Don't fill your mind with all the bad things that might still happen. Stay focused on the present situation and ask yourself why it's so unbearable and can't be survived. By Marcus Aurelius. Now, the question that happens to go along with that says, how can I better keep myself in the present moments? And I really, really like this particular page, I want to say, because being present is a lot of what dads have to do. And I'm not to say that mothers don't, but I really want to focus on dads today. And there is so much that could be said about both parents, but I kind of feel like this today, like Father's Day, is kind of like one of those overlooked holidays that it's like, hey, recognize the men who have definitely stepped up and made a difference exactly there. So when did I first become a father? I first became a father in May of 1996, I believe. Um, my daughter's name is Alina, and it's been an interesting journey. But I can tell you the very, very first time I ever held her, it was a few days after she was born. I couldn't get there on time, but that's besides the point. Anyhow, so I remember holding her for the very first time, and let me tell you the incredible feeling that something came from me and her mom. It's like, her mom did a tremendous job of giving birth to our daughter, and I definitely have to give a lot of praise to that. And she did a lot of the raising, and that's something that I want to set aside. But let's just say the moments that I've gotten to spend with Alina, the moments that I've gotten to hold her, encourage her, began the journey. And then, there's not really too much to say about that, but Alina is an amazing, intelligent, intuitive, strong, and courageous young lady. She is 26 years old. And I'm so happy that that I could be a part of her life, definitely a part of her life, in some degrees. And then there's my daughter, Annabella, my 14-year-old. Um, with Annabella, I learned really hands-on, one-on-one every day. From in her, especially her first year, I basically learned really how to do the changing the diapers, giving a bath, doing naps, um, just everything. And it's with Annabella, it's been like a roller coaster journey, and I'm definitely going through some difficulties with her at the current moment. But what I can say about Annabella is that she she and like all my girls brighten up my world. Their laughs, all my girls, their laughs, their giggles, their smiles. It just it fills me up with steam and courage, and I gotta say that, it's like, if you're a dad and you're in touch, it's not about, how hard you're gonna be or how much you're gonna protect them. It's the connection that you build with your kids, and, I can definitely say that. And then there's my four-year-old, Valentina. Valentina is so special to me in so many ways, and like they all are, they're all special in their own ways, but Valentina is very heartwarming, creative. She can feel when you're feeling something. She she's just a ball of joy, of creativity, and there's things that I'm noticing with her that I didn't quite notice with the others, but, I definitely have a connection, a strong connection with Valentina, and those are my girls. So, let's get really into fatherhood. So, what is fatherhood really like? Um, it is a challenge. It is definitely a challenge, so to speak. So, that's the thing, is you've gotta be willing to be adaptable, you know? So that's the thing is, being a dad, you're gonna have to constantly be adaptable. You're not gonna know, all the things. Hold on one second. So, anyways, you're gonna have to be constantly adaptable. You're gonna have to be strong, but there's good things that come along with all of that. And there's something about a dad that being a dad, I realized that the power of um my voice. I'm getting these, notifications, "Hey, do you wanna go to breakfast? Happy Father's Day." So so sorry about that. So, um, yeah, it's definitely there's a lot of pivots, from changing diapers, giving baths, being interested in, you know, being interested in them, not knowing what to think, and I have all girls. I don't have any boys. I know what it's like to be a guy, I know what it's like to be a boy, but I had no idea about being a father to girls. And anyways, so I with girls, there is a different temperament, and I would definitely will say that. And, with girls, you have to be willing to just learn how to listen, so to speak, more than you ever possibly realize. You definitely have to, feel out their ways, and and they're so temperamental. I mean, they're precious to me. And my girls, every single one of them, along the lines, I'm getting emotional, um, raised me to be a better man. And excuse me, let me get a little, um, not so choked up. Being a father to girls taught me how precious leadership can really be. Being a father of girls had to teach me a level of, it's not just straight black or white. It's not always, clear cut. But when you lead people and when you lead your girls, they're amazing. They are. And I don't like getting emotional in the air, but I want you to tell, because this is a joy day. And my girls, remind me every single day to get up. Excuse me. My girls every day remind me to get up, to be strong, just the thought of them. And I've, as a dad, you're not always gonna make clear choices that are gonna be great. And you're not gonna make choices that are all bad. There's gonna have to be a level of discernment, because something that I realized later in life, that you're setting the role model for them, how they're gonna receive men, how they're gonna find a partner, you know, how they're gonna find husbands, or live their lives, and you're gonna have to be a big part of that. And there's times where you're selfish as a dad, and you don't know how to be any other way. And the only way that I could tell you to becoming a dad is you're putting your hands on your kid, Like, and what I mean by that, I mean metaphorically, physically, that means you hug them, you encourage them, you let them know that it's gonna be great, and you let them know also when they struggle that they'll get through things. Being a dad, you're setting markers. You're giving, like, for a guy, we're very mechanical, we're very methodical, we do things, but then there's other sides of dads that could be negative too, like we're not as in tune with our emotions, and that may sometimes be an asset and sometimes it's not, but being a dad, you have you're teaching so much and you don't even realize it, and every word that you say, believe it or not, around them gets to them. Every word, every phrase, every outreach of emotion definitely gets to them, and it's more than what you realize. I mean, I'm only doing so long of a show. I'm only doing 30 minutes, but, what I can tell you is being a dad, you're a teacher, and either you're in tune with it or you're not, and I was in a chat room about, um, there was a phrase like single father, baby daddy. I wanna tell you something. One thing about being a dad, father, uphold that role with honor, and it means honor. Understand what you're doing. If you don't know how to be a dad, that's okay because just like with moms, they don't know they don't come pre-programmed. You're the gonna be the one they can lay down the foundation. You're gonna make choices. You're gonna make some great steps with them. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to go through all kinds of stuff. So when people tell me, "Oh, I want to get married. I want to have children," and I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa." Get in tune with yourself before you become a father. Because one thing about being a father, you're also a partner. I have three different moms, and they're all great moms in each in their own respect. And I'm with, my 4-year-old's mom. She's a great partner. She has given me consult. She has definitely helped me sharpen my skills as a dad and identifying that attachment is very, very important of being a father. That's right, attachment. What does attachment mean? It means that your child, there's this bond with them. And the more time you are with them, they kind of just internally know, like, okay, this is this is a guy who's in my daily and they connect, like I hold her, I encourage her. And one thing I notice as a dad, when we say things, I call it the man muscle. There's this kind of authority, and you got to be really temperamental with this, but there's this level of authority. Once it's said, it's done. And that was my first indication of what learning what leadership was and command. There was a book called Sovereignty by Ryan Mickler. He talks about how as a husband and man, you're there to provide, preside, and protect those three basic principles. And it's not what most people would think about. You'd have to read the book, but what I can tell you is under the provisions, you're doing emotional support as well as financial and physical. Protecting means not just, you're going to go beat somebody up. It means that you're going to guide them, your children, to make choices, to becoming adults so that not only they can thrive on their own, but, uh, but protect themselves and protect them against things that they don't understand and are not quite in play. So being a father, and protecting it is a huge encompassed thing, and I can't tell you that it's easy because there are challenges you're gonna learn along the way. Like I said, I was getting emotional. It's like every step of the way, I've learned something from my girls, and they've taught me more about myself than I realized. I learned how to make a measure of a mark. I've had to think like, what? Don't just give them advice, but give them a standard to look on or rely on. Give them some peace that they can be themselves. Give them some sovereignty, some agency to being individuals and not just like, hey, I'm dad, hear me roar. So with being a dad, there's like a lot to it. And to do it in a half-hour show, I don't want to do it injustice, but I'm going to try to, sum it up. So, like I said, there's challenges. Next key point. There's challenges being a dad, you know. Um, when you're not knowing what to do or how to handle things, you've got to really, really have a sense of resolve in yourself. You've really got to have that place where where you make, you're making judgment calls, and you're not gonna know how to deal with it. And like for single dads out there, I'm taking on a brand new project about parental alienation. And I'm gonna be talking about that in my future podcasts about this is why dads really do need attachment. You do absolutely need attachment and touching them emotionally. You got to let them know that it's okay to receive embrace, to go after their challenges, to not be afraid of difficulties and not cower and, or be just the role of just being a submissive. Um, raising young girls, I want them to be courageous and strong and understand how to be diplomatic. And I've not always been that guy. I've been impulsive. I've been rude sometimes. But I've also been the guy, the dad that's, yeah, I've given them lectures, trying to give them every advantage that I could possibly give, to deal with a world that can be extremely harsh or bountiful. The world can be your oyster if you let it, but it also can be a very dark place, and helping girls to becoming women and be able to navigate through all these spaces. And these are the challenges. I'm going through an incredible difficulty time in custody. And yesterday was the first time that I seen my daughter Bella. To a degree, I saw her feet away, and it just something that I'm working out. But there are those things, as a dad, you got to learn how to hold your tongue. You got to know that when you're speaking, and it makes impacts. You can't just impulsively respond to girls. You got to be able to take patience in your presence. That's right, patience in your presence. These are really, really key things about being a dad. And that also makes me a little bit reflect on my own father. Now, my own father really wasn't in my life too much. My dad has had his struggles. My dad's a, I could say like so many other people, yeah, he was a Vietnam vet, got addicted to drugs or whatever, give the sad story, but there's good parts of my dad. What can I say about my dad? Um, my dad can be extremely friendly. My dad showed me patience with a lot of things. He wasn't, he's not too intuitive, but my dad is, he's got this way with me where he can talk and he's just patient through all things. He knows. My dad taught me the important aspects of listening. And as he's getting older, my dad moved just recently this last week, my dad moved to Arizona. And I don't know when I'm going to see him again, and it's something to remind me that I do need to go visit him, you know, regardless of the history, regardless of what's happened. But my dad taught me a certain level of patience. My dad taught me about respect and like, don't talk so easily about others. You know, my dad never talked bad about my mom, never, couldn't, really. But um, my dad taught me about how to divert, you know, your emotions from letting them get out of hand. At least the beginnings of it. And so I got to really, really give a shout out to my father and my grandfather also. God rest his soul. Um, my dad's dad, my tata, you know, he he gave me so many life wisdoms. I think he was really the first one, without him knowing it, giving me an introduction to Stoicism and philosophy. He taught me about the importance of family. He taught me the importance of about hard work, the importance about your word matters. I didn't know this back then as a little kid. I just remember, my mom would bring me over to my grandparents' house, and my dad lived with them. And my grandfather would all like during the summer months, warm months, he'd be sitting in the backyard, playing his radio, listening to mariachi and other music, and sometimes having friends over, you know, um, and he would sit down in the backyard and just looking out in the backyard and just looking at a packing shed. There was a big backyard, but on the other side was a packing shed and rail yards. But he'd always be just looking in back, and I would get to know him. I when I would come over, I'd say hello to my grandma and give her a kiss. So great to see you, grandma. And then go into my dad's garage or the garage where my dad lived, and I'd say hi if my dad was home. But and then the last person it would be there'd be an extra lawn chair a lot of times, and I'd open it up, and it'd be those old, like, aluminum, and they had, like, this Kevlar or, I don't know, kinda woven plastic, and, you don't see them around anymore, but I would sit next to him, and he would talk to me. He would talk to me about in his broken English about, "You're a good boy. I encourage you. You're gonna be strong. You're gonna be courageous." And man, there I am emotional again. He taught me about the joy of love, loving, his family, you know, even my dad wasn't when my dad wasn't really there, he stood he stood up, you know, he made sure that no matter what, he would, look out for me and my brother and my sister. He'd get frustrated with my dad sometimes, and I remember that, and, I just remember that he would he would talk to me in such ways that I can't even tell you how much it means to me. And excuse me. What I can tell you is that because of his wisdom, it taught me about fortitude. It taught me about hard work and internal strength. And when things you can't express yourself, um, he allowed me to be a young boy so confused, so hurt, because my dad wasn't, my dad just wasn't there. He's mentally checked out, too busy doing other things. And I don't, and I forgive him. My grandfather always made that sure there was a steady flow of love. And that was the first person that I ever saw in my life who I can remember clear as day now, who just gives you that touch is what I'm talking about. That bond. And he would give me wisdoms about how to talk to women and how to talk to other men, and things like when you're shaking a man's hand, you grip with a firm grip and not choking. You don't shake with a loose little hand. He would say, talk, with integrity. He would say things like, when you look at somebody, you look them in the eye. These are very, very important things as a part of being a dad. And these are things that I try to instill in my children. And, no matter what has happened between me and my kids, because there's moments I was part of a deadbeat dad. There were moments that I did fall from grace, and that's why I don't judge my own father, because my dad did fall from grace to some degree. But what I can tell you is that what matters is that you can not so much restart, but you can pick up and you can keep plugging yourself in. You can keep persisting no matter what. And and that's where I'm internally grateful, because the tone that my grandfather set, regardless of what his children, how they measured up in being parents themselves or dads themselves or even mothers, um, no matter what, he instilled a method in which I can feel it. Here it is. God, it's been 26 years since he's been dead, and he died the year my daughter was born. Like, she was born, like, probably 5 months after he died. and he never got to see her, and that was one of my joys when I became a dad. I wanted him to be there and, and see how proud I was, and I had to and I still every day I say thank you, to him, in my prayers, and he's off in a better place. I know he's in heaven. Only time I ever refer to heaven is when I talk about him and my grandmother, and actually both my grandmothers, the people that I love. Um, but I can definitely tell you that, um, because of him and others, I've had other fathers, like step-in fathers, like my best friend, his dad, Melvin Roberts. My best friend, Gareth Roberts, I gotta give him an incredible shout out because when I was young, growing up in Manteca, I met a guy, his name is Gareth, and we met in school, and we went the same class for same years, and he was like, I would walk or ride my bike like a mile or 2 just to get to his house, and I'd stay the night, and his dad always had a he was like a rocket scientist, like, he worked at Lawrence Livermore Lab. He was, like, an incredibly smart guy, but he was very hands-on, why you gotta get to work, why you gotta appreciate hard work, how to use tools. He was that kind of a dad, and he taught me how to want to fix things. It's important that we as men, you develop integrity of learning how to fix things, whether tying a fence, working on a car, installing windows, using a hammer, using tape measure. All he taught me all these things um, that meant so much. And shout out to Melvin. Mel, I do appreciate you. I haven't talked to you in ages, and I know he's still alive, but I gotta say that he was the one who laid a steady hand on me also. So I've had a series of mentors around me that are I consider parts of my father, where my real dad wasn't there. These other guys stood up. Then Paul Senior, my little league coach. Um, Paul taught me. I remember we played for this team called AC Trucking. Paul taught me the level of patience in your decisions. Um, And it's very, very important. He would teach me about, how to swing a bat, why it was so important to hustle, why it was, and then he also taught me cultural things. He was a Mexican man who taught me about integrity, about being Mexican, you know, along with my grandfather, of course, but Paul taught me about levels of being brown, being a lighter shade of brown. He taught me about things that in such a short period of time, we only had played Little League baseball for 3 months, but I built a lifelong relationship with him. Um, and Paul is just he's an amazing guy. And then I had, um, Coach Davis, who is another father figure of mine. He coached me in track and field, and I got to go to the Junior Olympics because of his tutelage. He taught me. He gave me a perspective. He was also a man who recovered from war. He went to Vietnam, and matter of fact, he served in the same division as my dad, which was amazing. And he was 101st Airborne, and he taught me, how to get up early, how to start your day, how to really plug away that what you want, make sure it's crystal clear in your mind, and just go after it, no holds bar, and forget everyone else's message, forget about doubt. And definitely, Mr. Davis, Coach Davis, you know, he's still an important man. He's probably retired now, but he touched so many young guys. And like I said, I got to go to the Junior Olympics in San Antonio. I think it was in 1990. Yeah, 1990. And I found my talent for running. You know, I learned my thresholds of my body, and I learned about how to focus my mental power to determine my physical power. And that's partly because of Coach Davis. And there's Coach Barker or Baker, excuse me, my other track coach for 3 years of high school. Um, Also another fatherly figure. He taught me about mythology. He taught me about like I remember when I first met him, he was my cross country coach, and I think I just bragged and I said, "Oh yeah, I can run a mile in like 5 minutes or whatever." And I was just like, and then when I ran for him, it wasn't no 5 minutes. but he saw through the bullshit and he just kind of said, okay, well, but he meant so much to me that he gave me, he always gave me that guidance week to week all through my high school career, and he didn't the funny thing about him is when I wanted to run track and field, he wanted to put me in distance and I did something completely different. I was a distance runner, hands down. But I decided to run the hurdles, and I didn't know I had a talent for running hurdles. And I remember one of my heroes in 1984 was Edwin Moses. I was like, "Oh, man, I want to do that." And I got to do that, and hurdles taught me how to take the pain, how to constantly when you're tired, how to keep that mental toughness and pursue and go exactly after your goal. Don't look to the right or the left, just look ahead. And it's one of the most important lessons that I've taught my girls. Um, when I was involved with Bella's life in swimming, I always taught reiterated when she started swimming at 9 years old. Hey, never, and she's a swimmer. We don't never. What do we not do? And she would say, we never look to our right or left. I'm all why because we need to focus on what we're doing. So yeah, yeah. Jason Kinte wants to come up and definitely allow him up. Come up and 3, 2, 1. Good morning, Jason. How you doing?
TGITD. Thank God it's the second. Yeah, Father's Day special, and it sounds like you're a great father. I wanted to know if I could do a Father's Day poem because my dad passed away. He's
absolutely, and happy Juneteenth, by the way.
It's not my holiday in Canada, but I respect that. Happy Juneteenth for you guys. I respect that holiday. That's good.
I just respect, anyone whose origins from Africa and what they've had to go in this continent. To me, it's a praise.
For sure. I think it's good because this is the first year that Joe Biden actually made it a holiday, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it was Joe Biden. That's good. I like him better than Trump. My father taught me how to live. My father taught me how to give. My father taught me to delight in doing what's right. My father taught me how to write and how to recite. My father taught me how to think. My father helped me to not sink when I tried to stay afloat. When I was drowning, he threw me that life-saving rope. He taught me to avoid dope, to never try sniffing coke. He taught me never to get drunk and to never start to smoke. My father taught me to instead get high on life, and he taught me that even when times were rough, if I followed his advice, I'd still always be ahead. I made my mistakes, but my father forgave and taught me to pray for forgiveness before I went to bed. My father was my coach, my baseball coach, and made me the MVP. My father taught me how to study and learn how to be, yet to never settle for B. He's an academic coach too. When I got 97%, grade 9 math, my father asked me what happened to the other three. So I got 100% in grade 10 math. To make my father proud of me, my father taught me how to learn and earn my degree in life ology. My father taught me how to see the goodness in his family and humanity. My father taught me how to live. My father taught me to forgive because he constantly had to forgive me. He taught me all that he could, and then he set me free to explore humanity, even though he knew I would die someday. Because humanity would not always be how we all knew that humanity should be. My father loved me and taught me how to love, but knew that humanity would not always be as loving as he was to me. So my father sacrificed me. My father set me free. My father taught me to love him and even those who hated me as much as he loved me, and to do unto all as it have him do unto me, my father on earth, whom I love, Bernard Humphreys, and the one that's up above. I thank my father.
Wow. Wow. That was bringing me to tears because I was like, man, I could feel, I can feel all those words. Thank you, Jason, so much for coming up.
Thanks. I got to do that for my dad for years and years. I did it over 20 years ago. He was always in the front row. And if you're a dad like that, your kids are gonna be stars because it was because of my dad. When they offered me drugs and they offered me
Right.
weed and they offered me to get drunk, they offered me to go over there and do that with that person. And some other people they didn't have a dad like mine and they're in prison and some of them are dead. I'm serious.
Yeah, I can resonate with that because my whole time growing up for myself, I avoided drugs. I never did drugs when I was a teen. And my fathers, you know, my grandfather, my mentors, they helped formulate a program for me to how to direct yourself, taught me how, I like that part where you said, he taught me how to basically be. That's how to listen, how to think. That in a world where there is so much that is trying to tell what men should be, but the only way that you really get to be a man is experience. You got to
Yeah.
go through trials and tribulations, and that's just straight
And
up.
thank for having me up. And my mom is still alive. I thank God. My dad passed away at 71. I finished reading the Bible so at his hospital. Then he died. My mom is alive, but my mom, look, if I got 30%, my mom would just hug me and love me. My dad was the one that challenged me.
Yeah, there's something about dads that they just know how to challenge you in the right way, and there's things about being a dad that, like I was telling you, like I got to give so much gratitude, to those men who've made differences. So when you're when you're being a dad, you I think it's one of the most un uncelebrated aspects of life. I think for those of you that have had good dads, you know, I've heard, you know, great examples about. I was talking to my friend Leslie's dad a few months ago, and he helped raise, girls, and I believe she has a brother too. But understanding how to be a dad and just working and being a partner and being a husband, and man, it's just like there's so much for guys. It's like we talk, but when we talk, it's like, hey, when we have to be harsh or just straight up, it is what it is. When we have to really focus on, you know, soften the touch, we got it. And he definitely shared those experiences. So shout out to all those listeners who have come in live. And I just want to say, if any of you want to come up on stage before I leave, feel free to do so. And I just want to say thank you, Jason Kinte, for coming up on stage. I see Kaidi Franco. Thank you for coming back, and I definitely appreciate you. There's a few other guests. Dr. Rao, thank you so much. Ronnie King, Socrates. Hey, thank you so much for coming into my room and listening. Bree Talks, a good friend of mine. Frankie J, thank you so much. There's so many brand new people and brand new faces here live on Wisdom. And I definitely want to say thank you so much to every single person who comes out. Tomorrow, as I've got to bring this wrap up, is tomorrow I'm going to be doing Rise and Grind, and I'm going to probably coming out 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, um, 9 a.m. Mountain Central, and 10 a.m. Eastern. And I'm going to talk on Rise and Grind how much are people afraid of change. Tomorrow, that's exactly what I'm going to talk about. Today was I didn't really have this really organized as a talk. So you're going to see, if you see this on YouTube, yeah, you probably see me in tears, whatever. But all I can tell you is like my experience about being a dad. It's come with a lot of joys and just a little bit of sorrows. But just remember that you are setting your kids free, and hopefully you did your best job that they can be the best possible adults. So if you have a dad or even a mentor that made a difference in your life, and I don't care where you come from, call them up, send them a message, write them a letter, do something today. Give thanks to those men who stand up, because no matter who you are, there is a man who's stepped up in your life at some point in time. And being a father is definitely that. It is yeah, it's hard to under explain, but hopefully I've done the best job I could today. And like I said, I really took a week off because I needed some time to really work on some personal things, some emotional things, and some professional things, and start writing scripts like what I have for ready for tomorrow. So I'm excited, very about to make sure that you tune in tomorrow. I will be producing live here on Wisdom and YouTube. So make sure that you check it out. Well, that's all the time that I have for uh, Rise and Grind today. And may you celebrate your dad. If you're not sure what to get your dad, look and see if he's a tool guy. Look at what he's into. Pay attention to the things that he does. And if you don't know what he does, start asking. So it's not too late. Anyhow, we'll see y'all next time on Rise and Grind tomorrow morning on Monday. Take care. Whoops, not that one. Let's see. There we go.